I didn't write down notes for a full review, so here's my kind of overall thoughts on both shows. NXT was very cool to see people like Cody Rhodes, John Cena in the NXT environment. Looks like Roxanne Perez and Asuka had a really good match. They set up a fun Ilya Dragunov and Dominic match, which was good. The main event looked good. And we had LA Knight making an appearance as the special guest referee in the Dominic and Dragunov match. And with the main event with Paul Heyman and John Cena being in the respective corners of Braun Breaker and Carmelo Hayes and the tease of The Undertaker, they tied all of that in the end. Tied all of that in the end with Carmelo getting the win, Breaker attacking him, getting on the mic and saying he's a badass or whatnot, and then being interrupted by The Undertaker coming out to Kid Rock's American Badass. So The Undertaker in an NXT ring, Cena, Cody, that was pretty surreal to see. And Undertaker got a little bit physical, kicking the shit out of Braun Breaker, hitting him with a straight right hand and a choke slam and putting him down. That was all really cool. I'm glad that WWE thinks enough of AEW to stack up their show like this when they're already on their normal time slot. This is where they normally are. And lately, they've been doing pretty good numbers. They've been doing numbers that are competitive with Dynamite already. So the fact that they're loading this up means that they want to make sure that they win the night in the ratings. That's important to them. Why? Because AEW is a competing, hear the word, wrestling promotion, and they want to beat them. So Tony Khan wants to do the same thing. Had himself a nice six-pack of something last night and went on a tweet rampage that was one of the more entertaining things I've ever seen. And both NXT and AEW took turns yesterday, one-upping each other. We're going to go commercial free. Oh, yeah, well, we're going to go commercial free. We're going to do an overrun. We're going to do an overrun. They kept one-upping each other. The only difference is with AEW is what we got from them was a card that would pretty much rival any Dynamite. But they went as far as to do a buy-in on YouTube. So AEW was really trying to react to NXT or WWE and vice versa. And it set us up here with a really fun night of competition. And with NXT stacking the show the way they did, it's up to them. This is their night to lose, really. They're already on their normal time slot. AEW is the one coming over into their territory. So WWE has no excuses. They set themselves up in a no excuses situation. They better fucking hope they win those ratings tomorrow, because can you imagine if they don't? That's going to be a big, Tony Khan's going to be quite obnoxious on social media if AEW wins the night. I'm not sure if they are. I think NXT might squeak it out, but I think it's going to be interesting. And whatever happens, it's going to make for a really interesting discussion on social media. But on AEW's side of things, I thought their show was really good tonight too, because we had two title changes, both kind of surprising. Moxley pulled from the Rey Fenix match because he's not cleared yet. I had speculated over the weekend on the podcast that Jon Moxley would win back the title because he probably wasn't set to lose it to begin with. They called an audible the night that he got hurt. So I figured that he would just win the belt back tonight. But then when he was pulled from the match, they replaced him with Orange Cassidy and wound up giving Orange Cassidy the belt back, which sucks because now looking back in hindsight, you probably wish he never dropped that belt to begin with, and he would have held it now for a year. But that was ruined when they put it on Mox, and then he got hurt and that all got screwed up. So Orange Cassidy won the belt back. That was kind of surprising. And then Saraya dropped the belt to Hikaru Shida, and Shida is now a 3-time champion. The Toni Storm stuff was funny because they did her silent films in the picture-in-picture format, which was really good. On NXT, we saw a vignette for Brian Pillman Jr., who's going to be known as, I guess, Lexus King. He didn't talk very highly about his father in this vignette and basically made it sound like he's going to be using his tumultuous childhood as motivation for this new character, taking the name of the man who raised him. So Lexus King, I guess, is going to be what his name is, a pairing of his stepfather and his sister, I believe. And it looked pretty good. So we'll see how Junior does there. So that was all right. And overall, this was all kinds of fun. I really did enjoy what I was seeing from both shows. I had AEW here on with the volume up, and we were eyeballing NXT on the wall on mute. And whenever something big was going on in NXT, we would turn the volume up, and it was working out pretty good. But in the main event here tonight on AEW, we saw Adam Copeland taking on Luchasaurus. Christian explained why he told Adam to go fuck himself last week and, just ever the heel, and went in to talk about Adam's family and his daughters and Beth, and that she should change the sheets because daddy's coming home, or their new daddy is coming home. All this stuff. The Edge and Luchasaurus match was actually pretty good. Lucha was very dominant, and he had a lot of help from Nick Wayne as Christian watched from the ramp. But in the end, it was Adam using the belt that Christian brought down to the ring against Luchasaurus and was able to beat him. And the show went off the air with a big, huge brawl with all of the members of, all the people had matches tonight. We had Danielson, Hangman, Swerve. Everybody was out there brawling with each other and label locking Christian. Danielson was label locking Christian as the show went off the air. So cool to see Danielson and Adam Copeland back in the same ring together after getting stacked at WrestleMania a couple of years ago. So I thought it was a lot of fun. I really did. And I think that if you watched wrestling tonight and you had anything other than fun, you really need to seek out some professional help, because there's no reason for any fan, any of us, to be angry about anything. The only thing I'm noticing right now on social media is the backlash that appears to be happening with AEW due to what we saw in the MJF and Bullet Club Gold segment, which I really did like. I liked the heat that was building there, but apparently the quarter thing might have gone too far, especially with kind of what's going on right now. And a lot of people are calling AEW out for that. I suppose rightfully so. In the heat of the moment, we're watching both shows. I wasn't in the mindset to get offended, but I understand why people would take issue for that for sure. So AEW might deserve a little bit of the criticism they're going to get for that segment, but at the same time, tribalism is going to rear its head there, and the same people that have I hate snowflakes in their bio are suddenly going to have a huge problem with something that they probably wouldn't normally have a problem with. But it's a chance to jump on AEW, so of course they're going to take it no matter how hypocritical it makes them look. But for the normal people out there who are fans of both and are adults, if you took offense to what was done in that promo, I can understand. Overall, though, still a fun night of wrestling. I wish and hope that we can get these like once or twice a year. It doesn't have to be all the time, but anytime you can put an AEW show, a big one, up against a WWE show, it's always going to be fun. We're getting that a little bit on Saturdays now with Collision and pay-per-views, but pay-per-views and Collision are different entity. Like one, obviously, most people, even if you are an AEW fan, is probably going to watch a PLE over Collision. But in a case like this, where it's a Dynamite versus an NXT, that's where an audience is legitimately divided, probably because it probably will be pretty close. I could be wrong, but I don't think we're going to see a 300,000 viewer gap here in the ratings tomorrow. We could get 800 from NXT and 500 from Dynamite. We could. I just doubt it. I just think it's going to be more 8-7 or 9-8. Something like that. So we'll see. But whenever we can get something like this happening, I think it would be really fun. It would be great if we could get a Dynamite up against a Raw somehow. Not permanently, because I think that's a mistake. TNA trying to go to Mondays was dumb. AEW should not do that either. But if something happens and there's no other day available to run a Dynamite except a Monday because of NBA or whatever the hell's going on, and Dynamite just randomly ran on Mondays, that would be great, because what it would do is force WWE to stack their fucking show, and then AEW is going to want to stack their show to do some damage to WWE's rating, and we would be given a really awesome night of wrestling. And if that happened, I'd do the picture-in-picture thing again, totally. So I hope we get a couple of these a year every now and then. It was super fun. And I think tomorrow's going to be really interesting. I can't wait to see it. Like I said, it's all on WWE. There is no pressure at all on AEW. If AEW loses in the ratings, the tribals are going to be jumping up and down on social media like it's a victory when it should be. WWE's on their regular night, their regular time slot, and they booked an entire fucking Hall of Fame class to come in to boost them up. If they lose, that's pathetic. So you better hope they win. And if they do, don't act like it's some big victory. All they did is what they should have done. Anything other than a victory is going to be a huge loss for WWE. Where AEW, they're kind of playing with house money. They're not even on their normal night. So if they're able to come in and actually outdraw a WWE established show that's already there that loaded up John Cena and Cody and Taker and Heyman and everybody else, and they lose, that is a victory that you can truly celebrate, and that's why AEW is kind of in a better spot than WWE tonight, even if they lose, because a victory for them would be a legitimate big victory, something to celebrate. A victory for WWE would be like, well, what the fuck did you expect? This is already your night, and you stacked it up with a whole bunch of people that have never even set foot in that fucking performance center before. All because another wrestling company came to your night. You did all of that in response to that. You better win. You better win. So all you tribals out there that are going to get very happy tomorrow if the ratings show an NXT victory, think about what you're celebrating there. All you're celebrating is the obvious. All you're celebrating is what should have happened. It's really not a victory. This should be a layup for NXT. So before you start whacking off, think about what it means. It's probably not that big of a deal for NXT to win in the ratings here, considering what they put for their audience. AEW, on the other hand, coming in, drawing a higher number, much bigger deal. Much bigger deal. So we will see. Tomorrow should be interesting, and so should the discourse. Luckily, I have got a busy day at work, so I'm going to largely ignore that, but I'm going to be very interested to see what Brandon Thurston, whoever else we're using for ratings these days, has to report tomorrow morning. I can't wait. It's part of the fun. It reminds me of the good old days.